This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Instead of press row on a Thursday evening from Southern California, we present to you folks Madness Tonight, the recap show for the 2025 NCAA Men's Basketball March Madness Division I Championship Tournament. Alongside that man, James Gonzales, up in Oceanside, California. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, here with you in San Diego to recap an action-packed 16-game slate of the opening day of the March Madness Tournament for men's college hoops. Mr. Gonzales, great start to the day, hopefully, for you with the brackets. Good to see you, my friend. How we doing tonight as we recap and talk some college basketball?
Yeah, I as we'll talk about here, the games and all that, but it seems like I picked too many upsets, too many underdogs, too many Cinderellas.
Traveling, too many steps, too many upsets.
I was feeling it yesterday, but hopefully tomorrow will be better.
Yeah, how does the bracket look, though, after day one?
I'm 10-6, and I should have been probably 13-3 if I didn't go with stupid picks.
I blame the coin of you having to flip, because I know that last night we were very much wishy-washy a little bit. Right now, I'm 11-5 after one day of play. It could have been, James and I both could have been 13-3, 14-2, 16-0, maybe, if we would have, gone the other way, though. But, I think, James, that's why, though, that people love March Madness, is that I had to, yell and scream earlier today at a few people. This is why March Madness is beautiful, because we're not going to go undefeated. I know that the odds are like 1 in 9.2 quintillion to get a perfect bracket. It's like everyone was going to lose eventually. It took me until like game 10, I think, or game 11 to finally drop my first one after a great morning slate of games. But with that in mind, folks, what we're going to do here as of tonight, starting soon, and whenever James and I have time during the tournament, we will come on here for our show, which is called Madness Tonight, to kind of recap the day, kind of talk over how the brackets are looking for us, also talk about, games in general, games that caught our eye, and then also update you on the following day. So we're going to try to be here when we can. So we'll try and be here tomorrow. We'll try and be here on Sunday. We'll try and be here as the weeks do go on. So we might actually be not doing some of our regular programs like Coast to Coast at night or even Press Row, to, I think, really give fans and college basketball fans a chance to really catch up on the tournament. I will also try my best to do a women's show as well, while we are also here on Madness Tonight. Again, those brackets do lock at 9 a.m. tomorrow for the women's side of things. I filled out my brackets earlier, or my two brackets earlier today. So that's our plan, though, folks, is to kind of come on here, kind of, just sit back, relax, talk about, the games. Again, 16 games to talk about, and just kind of hopscotch around and kind of get some thoughts on action. Also, we'll take your input, as always, on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitch. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that that commentary is read live on the air. With that in mind, James, let's kind of, again, hopscotch around. I'll let you actually start and pick a game that you want to kind of talk about here in length.
Gosh. I'll say the Texas A&M and Yale game. Unfortunately, I did go with Yale. It was really close, but after a while, Texas A&M was just too strong, just too good. It was unfortunate to see, but it happens. But it just felt like they were just too strong, Texas A&M. Polka Kayadis, the Yale player who came in that everybody was kind of spot shadowing there. He did go off, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. Pero Payne had 25, and that was really unfortunate. But I caught some of that game among all the other games. It's just a great time of year, but and it was close until it wasn't, and that was unfortunate for Yale.
Yeah, this game was close, James, and then it felt like Yale just kind of hit a wall. I mean, their leading scorer or one of their better players, name eludes me, but Bing, because the NCAA does not do first and last name, sadly, on the app. 34 minutes, James, 2 points. And that was kind of like the talking point that I heard about during Yale's broadcast was that the offense went through him. And Yale did not get his best effort, sadly. And I think, though, that when you kind of get on that big stage, though, you're playing, a bigger, better opponent, of course, from the big bad SEC. More importantly, I think, though, as well, James, in the ball game, Yale also shot a dismal 8 of 21 from beyond the arc, though. But the Aggies also were 6 for 25 from beyond the arc, though. They also made 4 more field goals. So it was kind of, James, it felt like a game that was like a lot of bump and grind in a game that a lot of shots weren't falling. But I thought Yale, to their credit, though, James, they got down early, got down a lot, though, but they were fighting back. But really, though, it looked like, though, big game James could not get over that hump, and A&M gets the W in that matchup.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate. Again, you have 2 starters that only scored 2 points. Aliton and McBang, and you need those guys to go off because everybody else was in double figures in the starting lineup, and then you have one bench player come up with 12 points, and it just shows you if those other 2, just got maybe 4 more buckets, we would be talking maybe about an upset right there.
Yeah, or maybe a game that finishes, by a 1-point loss, a 2-point loss, not by 9. But again, in our first game on Madness tonight, again, Texas A&M over the Yale Bulldogs out of the Ivy League, 80-71. James, I want to go to an upset. And that upset, James, came in the wake of the Drake Bulldogs, who you, me, and Brandon picked in the panel picked bracket last night. They upset 6 seed Missouri, 67-57 from the Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita, Kansas. The Bulldogs outshooting the Tigers, James. How about 54% from the field for Drake? They held Missouri to 33%, a 15 for 41 from the field for the Tigers. And they also made 12 of their 24 free throws go 50% from the field or from the free throw line, I should say. And James, this was a game, though, that I, in my personal bracket, went with Missouri. But every time, though, James, and I love seeing this, especially when it's a lower seeded team playing against that bigger, better seeded ball club. If they have the lead, James, and that other team is getting close, they start kind of making a bit of a run, though, they answer back almost every time. And Drake had an answer right when Missouri was kind of getting in their flow and rhythm. I also thought that Drake, though, really did a great job penetrating to the basket and drawing contact down low in this game, which I think led them to this victory. So, James, how about maybe that first upset of Drake over Mizzou, 11 beating 6 today in Wichita, Kansas?
Yeah, coming in, you knew Drake. They were a high octane offense, right? So they make their shots, and everybody was real high on them. So I think that's why we all picked them to win, and fortunately they did. Unfortunately for Missouri, you had a couple of guys in the lineup, especially Mark Mitchell, usually averages 14 points per game.
He was held at bay for the entire night, which was very surprising.
Drake only held him to 8 points. So that was kind of a shock there if you've been watching Missouri basketball. But yeah, what's his name? Banks had 15 off the bench, and that was important for Drake. And then, of course, I think the main guy on Drake, Bennett Sturts, had 21 points, so he was above his average, and they needed him to go off. I remember they were shadowing him before the game, saying that if he goes off, they have a good chance to win. Not many others kind of contributed, but they got enough to win this game, but it only gets tougher for Drake.
It will get tougher, but the first big upset, though, of the first day of March Madness goes in favor of Drake over Missouri, 67-57 from Wichita. James, go to back to you for the next game you'd like to talk about.
Okay, Omaha against St. John's. This is, of course, Rick Pitino's first tournament game with St. John's, and we talked about it before the show, before he came on, how Omaha was up, I think 8-0 at the start or 7-0, and I had to flip over. There was multiple games going on, of course, but I flipped over just to see what was going on. Obviously, Rick Pitino probably got the troops together and made sure everybody was right. They were not going to get blown out of the first round, and luckily they went back to what got him there. R.J. Lewis Jr., he had a good day, 5 for 8 from downtown, scored 22 overall, but everybody else pretty much chipped in. Ella4 inside, he had a decent game with 10 points and 7 rebounds, but it was all about R.J. Lewis Jr. Some bench players kind of helped in, but 4 starters with double figures really helped out. A little note, I think. I was wrong about the TikTok guy. I forget the trainer, but he's not for Omaha. He's with Manice State. I got those confused, but Omaha at first it looked really good, but then they ended up being blown out by 30 points.
Yeah, that the start to the game was staggering. And I say it was staggering because I was watching a different game like James. I was going between TBS and True and TNT and CBS and all that good stuff. And literally just reading the score and seeing Omaha 7, St. John's nothing. Like, what in tarnation is going on? And then, like James said, though, I'm sure that Pitino probably had some choice words like, we're not going to embarrass ourselves here, fellas. We're a 2 for a reason. And then it was kind of still, James, a dogfight until what I think, James, we're so used to seeing, though, is that the lower seed teams, they give them all they got. They're giving them their best shot. What do they got to lose? They're playing, like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. And Omaha came out, man. And I think that their shooting really kept them in this game until the very end of the second half, when it looked like they ran out of gas, using all the, like exerting all their energy to kind of build the early lead, stay close, not make it what it became, a 30-point loss, though. I think, James, all credit goes to Omaha, man. That could have been a game much like one of the, the SDSU UNC game, for example, where a team comes in, they looked overwhelmed and they don't play their best, though. But those guys kept fighting, and hats off, though, to Omaha and the Mavericks playing against Rick Pitino's crew today in that first matchup.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, by the way, it was a 33-28 lead for St. John's after the first half of play. So, I mean, they were right there. Right. I mean, they up by 7, hanging around, though. Then it was a 50-25 second half for the Red Storm all over the Omaha Mavericks in their first matchup. James, I want to go to the game that just ended. And this was a game, James, that was also a rocky finish. Texas Tech got a scare from the UNC Wilmington Seahawks today. 82-72, Texas Tech, the 3 over the 14. But, James, this was a 38-34 Texas Tech lead. And a game that at the down to the wire saw Wilmington go back in front. This was a back and forth punch, counter punch game. And I'll tell you what, man, Wilmington may have pulled off probably, if that game was the other way, James, that's probably, I think, one of the other, that would have been easily the biggest upset of, I think, the whole day in general. Nolan Hodge, by the way, for Wilmington, 18 points for him to lead the team. Kerwin Walton, 27 points for the Red Raiders, 8 of 9 from the field and 3 of 4 from the free throw line at this stage. But again, though, James, this was a ball game, though, that the Seahawks, they gave the Red Raiders a big scare again, only being up by or down by 4, but then the Red Raiders outscore them 44-38. But like I said, though, big game, James. This was a ball game, my man, that was down to the wire until the dynamite exploded, though, on UNC Wilmington.
Yeah, Seahawks definitely had a lot of energy, and there was a time in that second half, probably midway or a little bit more than midway, where Texas Tech started to kind of hang their heads like, oh no, what's going on? No, we cannot get
little like little bit
upset.
of like a little deflated, a little like, oh, I don't know
Yeah.
about this, man. I don't know about this. I don't know about this.
And then they turned it on, and I'm reading this, but I can't believe I saw this, but they shot 46 3-pointers. That's just crazy to me.
And that's sadly, James, like you said on the show on Wednesday, this is where basketball is now. No one penetrates and drives and goes for the easy bucket. You got to settle for the long range three.
And it just goes to show you, like, if you're not hitting them, you could be out right away. But luckily, they made 13 of those. But you had Walton, who ended up scoring 27. He made 8 out of 19. Curran Walton, who only averages 5.8, and luckily he stepped up and scored the 27 points, or else they would be out right now. So luckily Walton got him in there. But it's amazing the way that the game has changed, where, again, drive and kick or just swinging around the perimeter, whatever the case is. But shout out definitely to the Seahawks for making it close. The bench, let me tell you about the bench real quick.
Yes, please do.
They had a great night with 32 points coming off the bench there. I think I did my math correct. Yeah. 34 points. That is 34 points. And that was huge for them. That's why they were close in the game. So that was really good to see. No, I'm sorry, 32 points. Okay, yeah, 32. So that was huge. Total team effort, but just wasn't enough at the end because of those 3-pointers. 3 is more than 2.
James, before we get back to you, I think our man Tim Hendricks, though, James says it right though in the chat box. Fellas, it's simple. They avoid the high percentage shots like the plague. Curry made the 3 far too sexy.
And
Case closed.
One thing, I was listening to Dan Patrick this morning before work, and he was mentioning the shot blocking is not a thing anymore. There's nobody trying to climb out Mutombo or Kareem blocking a shot or Hakeem Olajuwon. You don't really see that anymore unless it's like a fast break opportunity.
Unless your name's Brian Kalkbrenner.
Or like a big man like Edie inside as well. Unless it's
Golden
like a 2-on-1
from Michigan,
especially the 2-on-1 alley-oop chance that you'll see in March Madness here, like the Drake did tonight.
Yes,
but it just shows you there's not many opportunities, like Tim said, going inside. It's all about swinging around. Hopefully someone gets doubled.
Drive and kick, get into the lane, kick it out. Corner 3, Peter Griffin style. Peter Griffin style. But Tim, thanks for the input on that. James, back over to you for the next game you'd like to talk about. Got plenty of them on here.
Maybe the most disappointing game in my eyes, not only because I got it wrong, but where the hell did Utah State go?
Oh, man. My goodness.
That was so embarrassing.
Stop the dang match.
72-47, UCLA beats Utah State. That was embarrassing. Just, they had 2 guys in double figures only for Utah State. The bench, put up, 9 points out of the 5 guys that played. That was really embarrassing to see. But Daly Jr. and Clark for UCLA, the starters will have 14. Mara, we were talking about, 7-footers. He had 10 coming off the bench. He probably exploited the middle that wasn't so big for Utah State. And then there's the 3-point shooting, by the way, for Utah State, I think did him in 4 for 31. I think that really hurt him. Only 13% call it.
Doesn't help when you fall behind by 12 entering halftime.
Yeah, and they just only fell further from that. So you live by the 3, you die by the 3, and they're gone.
Good evening to our good man Casey King from Chicago, joining us at just after midnight in Chi-Town after seeing the Kings play the Blackhawks in the NHL. James, yeah, I was kind of surprised at this game. I did pick UCLA though. But again, a 12-point lead for the Bruins, and they outscored the Aggies 33-20 in the second half of gameplay. More importantly, James, the Bruins shot the lights out of the gym. 48% from the field, They held the Aggies to 30% from the field in this ball game, and a dismal 12.9% from beyond the arc. UCLA, James, 41.7% from the fields, or from the three line. So the Aggies had no answer inside, James, let alone beyond the arc, to stop UCLA in this ball game.
I'm very disappointed with Utah State.
Feels like a giant letdown, kind of.
Yeah, it does. At least, a lot of people were interested in this game because both teams seemed similar. So we were hoping for a closer game in that aspect.
Without a doubt. But again, UCLA knocks off Utah State, Big Ten, over the Mountain West, 72-47 in that ball game. James, I'll go to another upset in a way, because it was a game that I did not foresee happening, though I got the pick right, but not the scoreline. 12-seed McNeese, despite the final score rating a 69-67 win for the Cowboys, they ran the Clemson Tigers off the floor in this ball game earlier from the Amick Mutual Pavilion in Providence, Rhode Island today. So again, don't let the score fool you. At one point in time, James, the Cowboys, McNeese, led Clemson, the 5-seed, 31-13 at halftime. That is not a typo. 31-13 at halftime. Only for Clemson to score 54 points in the second half, and they still win the ball game over Clemson. Brandon Murray, 21 points for McNeese, while Jaden Zachary tried his damnedest to get Clemson back off the mat. 24 points, 9 of 19 from the field in this ball game. But James, the telling sign though here is a lot like UCLA. McNeese, 43.5% from the field, 21.1% from beyond the arc, and they out-rebound Clemson 43-36. Again, that game was over at halftime. Again, like I say, don't let the final score fool you. It was at one point in time 31-13. Clemson, a 5-seed, James, 13 first-half points. Wow.
This was the manager, town manager, whatever.
Student manager.
Student manager with his viral boombox. This was the team that had it.
He's got NILs with Insomnia Cookies and someone else. He's got NIL deals all of a sudden.
Ugh.
Love it.
I want one. No, the cheerleaders were wearing his socks, I believe.
Yes, I thought that was great. I thought, see, that's part of the reason why I love March Madness is that you have shenanigans like this go on. Like it's I think, James, it's also Houston. They their lead ball boy is 12 years old. I think he's a cancer survivor or some story like that I saw in the Athletics. So this is why we love March Madness away from a team like McNeese, 12-seed team beating Clemson. And again, running them off the floor in the first half, 31-13 in the first half of play.
Yeah, quickly about McNeese State, they had 35 points off the bench. And I think that was huge, especially probably in that first.
Too bad that the halftime hole was so bad.
Yeah. I did see late in that game that Clemson just started to make threes. And luckily, McNeese State, they were throwing the ball away, though, a couple of times, when they were trying to heave it down court for some reason, and throwing the ball away and then getting it stolen. And then there was another time where I can't remember. I think it was Richards Jr. No, I can't remember which McNeese player, but he could have just held it back and got fouled late in the game. But instead, he went for a reverse two-hand dunk that he barely got in. But that was so late in the game. But luckily, Clemson, after making like 3-4 threes in a row, just kept making it closer and closer. It went from a 10-point game all the way down to 3 or 5 at one point. And then McNeese luckily was, making their free throws, making baskets late, and just crazy for Clemson. And one thing I pointed before the show, before we came on, of course, was with, how Houston always loses in the Elite Eight or before. It seems like Clemson and teams like Virginia, they'll lose these first round games. They'll get upset. So you can never trust
Virginia versus UMBC, 16-1.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate for Clemson, but McNeese, I'm just happy for them because they had some good dunks today, some exciting plays, and that was really good.
So again, McNeese with the 12-over-5 upset over Clemson, 69-67. James, shoot a three-pointer. Pick your next game.
Gonzaga over Georgia. I thought it was going to be a closer game. It wasn't. And luckily I switched my pick yesterday when we did the show. I was, for some reason, really the battle between Bulldogs. I was really...
Which Bulldog was it going to be?
Georgia. And then luckily I said, you know what? They have Mark Few at Gonzaga. I'm going to go with them. They got out early and then led 48-27 at the half. They split in the second half even, but you could just tell the damage was done. Cleef Battle, number 99, by the way. I love that. Had 24 points.
How does a referee put that number up? I wish I would have gone to the USD Zaga game. Like, how? Yeah, I'm going to guess, like, not yet. Yeah.
2 shots. Yeah, I never even thought about
1-1.
it. 77. Yeah, all those big numbers, but...
I saw a referee stack for a number 9. He would stack his hands
okay
for a number 9.
So for the Gonzaga, the starting lineup, everybody except one had double figures. Everybody above 13 or more, other from Nemhart with 3. So that was a big deal. That was a total team effort for them. But Georgia just seemed like, I don't want to say this about the SEC, but it just seems like maybe they had too many teams go in. Who knows? Maybe 2 of those Big Ten teams should have got in instead of the SEC teams. We'll find out tonight or tomorrow about Vanderbilt.
A couple of thoughts real quick. Casey first writes in, Clemson was pure doo-doo today. Again, 31-13 to McNeese at halftime. And Casey, about the Bruins, not surprised that they beat Utah State, but I see them losing in the next round.
Yeah.
So the West Coast Conference just wiped the floor clean with the SEC. Duly noted, because the Gonzaga Bulldogs at one point, James, leapt out to a 13-0 lead in this ball game. They led Georgia by 19 at the half in this ball game. And as you said, it was a 41-41 second half for both teams. But Gonzaga from the West Coast Conference, the conference of Callan McClurg, just wiped the floor with the almighty SEC. And people say, I don't know college basketball. Duly noted. With that in mind, James, Asa Newell, 20 points for Georgia, and as mentioned, battle 24, 9-13 from the field. 2 of 2 at the line in this game. Zaga was favored by 7.5 points to beat the other Bulldogs. More importantly, though, James, and I know that this won't happen for the next game. Gonzaga shot 55% from the field and 60% from beyond the arc. Now, that won't happen in the second game. Normally you have a half like that where you probably are blistering and shooting like that, but that's not going to happen, though, for game 2. As for Georgia, by the way, James, Zaga limited them to 19.2 from beyond the arc and 35% from the field. And also, they also grabbed 7 more boards than Georgia. So the WCC beats the SEC. I absolutely love to see it. James, I'm going to have to probably go a little bit closer to home and have to sadly play the Bittersweet Symphony by the Verve, one of my favorite songs of the late 90s. But sadly, UC San Diego's great run came to an end, though, after a very rough start, though, falling behind 10-0 to Michigan. The Tritons scratched and clawed and fought their way back into the ballgame, but lose, though, at the final buzzer, 68-65 to Michigan in that 5 versus 12. James, I do need to remind people, for one thing, this is not the school I work at. I know a lot of people always ask me, you work at UCSD, right? No, I don't. I work at USD. There's no C in our school name. That's one thing. Second of all, James, this is my big reminder. This at one point, James, way back when my uncle was going to UC San Diego, they were a Division III program. By the time I was working and began working in college sports, James, they were a Division II program. Now, all of a sudden, James, the Tritons in La Jolla, in their ginormous campus, where they're known for biology, ocean research, and being a very difficult school to get into with academic needs and tuition, they make the jump, James, to Division I. They were ineligible the last 3 years because of the transitional rules that are in place with the NCAA, that you have to wait at least 3 years before you can become eligible to compete for a conference championship, let alone a conference tournament championship. And Eric Olin, James, has kind of been a guy under the radar in his time coaching in San Diego circles and obviously nationwide with, the Tritons now being a Division I program. They won 15 straight games. They went 30-3 on the season, I believe, and won both the Pac West or the Big West. Pac West is a different one, but the Big West regular season and tournament championship. And they took Michigan, Steve Fisher's one-time employer before he went to San Diego State. They took Michigan to the final buzzer in their debut game as a Division I program in March Madness to lose by 3. What a great story for UC San Diego. You hope, though, that he can keep a lot of these guys together. I know there's been some rumblings about Eric Olin might be looking elsewhere, but I really doubt that he does. But you never know, though, in the day and age, though, of college athletics. James, I got to see UCSD up close and personal when they played USD in kind of like a new rivalry that's being started between the two schools because of location. And I saw this team firsthand. You saw this team firsthand. They really, in a way, caught the attention of San Diego college sports fans because SDSU wasn't quite the same as they have been in recent years because of injuries and their bad play over the course of the season. And here, James, comes, the new kids on the block at UC San Diego, now eligible to win the conference tournament and the conference championship, taking Michigan, the Big Ten Wolverines, right to the final buzzer. What a season. What a year for UCSD, and I'm so damn happy for them seeing their success this year in men's college hoops. James, your overall thoughts on UCSD right to the end against 5-seed Michigan and their first ever tournament appearance as a D1 program?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments that you have. And then, watching this year, going through their conference, beating Utah State over there on the road. That was
only
huge.
Losing to SDSU by 5 the first game of the year at Viejas Arena. James, you and I know it's not easy winning at San Diego State at that arena whatsoever.
No, it's not at all. The show's right on you. So yeah, historic year, of course. Could have been last year too if those
rules weren't in place.
Yeah, that's what I hate when I saw the success happening last year.
You're just like, man, what can we do here?
I would have loved to seen them. And for the game tonight, I should say, unfortunately, they looked hesitant and nervous and tentative at first.
Oh, absolutely. You could tell. And honestly, I think it kind of in a way, James, now minus the fact that they were behind 10-0. Even Michigan kind of looked that way just a little bit too much, but I can definitely, James, understand. Before I give you the floor back, James, when I was working at Point Loma Nazarene, this was about 8 years ago when I first got there, our women's basketball team got a berth into the Division II regional. They flew all the way to Anchorage to play Alaska Anchorage. They were the number 1 seed. They lost 1 game all year. They had not lost at home all season. And we jumped on them early. I think we were up by 15 points at halftime. Then gradually UAA made their comeback and they took the lead late in the second half. We called timeout to drop a play. And, one of our better players, Jessa Scorza, was the decoy. We had a freshman, Roya Rustamzada, score the game-winning basket. They win the game 64-63, and I saw videos saw social media videos of them, celebrating, in the locker room when they won the game. But also, though, about the moment maybe being too big, though, coming back now to talk about UCSD, I saw that, though, like rushing shots weren't falling early in the game, falling behind 10-0. Maybe officiating as the game wore on, though, but they got right back within 3. Then they fell back by 10. They clawed back again. They tied the game. They took the lead, only though for Michigan to take the lead again. Then they fell back behind by a couple of possessions. They got right back in it. We're within 3 with the last 3-pointer clanks off the rim. But James, back over to you.
Yeah, and the unfortunate part, Tate Jones got in foul trouble, and he only got 7 points in the ball game. McKee had the threes going, 25 points there. Well, he's 3 from 15. He had the green light, I should say. But Cappick and Gray also had, double-digit points, but they didn't get much else from anyone. Scoring wise, going back to the beginning of the game, the shots weren't falling, the shot attempts weren't as pure, and then credit, I think, Michigan's defense for clamping down too. UC San Diego probably did not face that
kind of defense in the Big West.
Defense. Yeah. I think it's different with Michigan, of course. They play probably a rugged, more grounded ball. They only had 2, guys going double figures, but Golden was big inside with 14 points. That was,
and as soon as Tate Jones got fouled out, he just kind of ate UCSD alive in the paint.
So, just recap. Great year. It says 30-5 here for UC San Diego.
And they won 15 straight games to get into March Madness. Like, that's impressive stuff.
And the fact that the pregame show had film or video of games that like camera from the stands. It was just crazy how people were trying to get footage of him for tourney time. That really never has happened. So yeah, just a great year. Wasn't hoping for this. Did not want Michigan to win, of course, but they move on. But a great banner year for UC San Diego. Can't wait to see. When I went to Lion Tree Arena, I saw all the banners for all the other sports. I didn't really see one for basketball, but next year, hopefully,
and I'm sure there's a lot of Division II, CCAA, Division III banners up there. And now, James, they can finally claim a Division I banner. I absolutely love to see it. Yeah,
that's what I'm going to be looking at. They only shot 23%, by the way, in 3-pointers, so that didn't help.
And I think that was mainly James just spurred on by the early bad start again. 10-0 behind the 8 ball early and trying to claw back, though. But again, they took Michigan to the final buzzer.
Yep.
Just, again, great year for the Tritons out there. And shout out to Coach Olin and that cast and crew and UC San Diego Athletics. A YouTube viewer, Tour Fweddy, I'm guessing. If I got that wrong, I apologize. How's the bracket looking so far, fellas? I'm 1 game better than James, 11-5, and James is 10-6 right now. So it's not going too bad. It's not going too bad, but thanks for asking. Casey, I thank you, man. Callan, you know your stuff about all sports. Just tell that to your buddy whose last initial starts with the letter L, because he always loses. Casey also says UCSD did very well and had a great year. Props to them on a great season. And again, very great stuff for UCSD. Again, first time ever getting into the tournament, first actual official year being a Division I program, and you get to play Michigan and take them to the final and take them right down to the Final Horn. Absolutely amazing. James, back over to you. Next game. Where'd you like to go?
It's weird, real quick. I don't understand the totality of it all, but I would go down there sometimes or go through the campus. I'm thinking, it's a university, but I see oceanography everywhere and biology, like you mentioned. But I've never
biology research, Scripps School for Oceanography. I even think they're big in the tech world as well.
Yeah.
And the library is very famous. It's a very photogenic spot on campus. For those who don't know, real quick sidebar story: the library at UC San Diego is named in honor of Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel, and it's built to look like it's a pair of hands holding up a stack of textbooks, is what it looks like when you look at it from different perspectives. And the campus has exploded in the past several years at UC San Diego. With them going Division I, all the facilities have been updated. The local public train service now goes to the campus from San Ysidro all the way up to I think 4 on-campus stops that ends at UTC Shopping Mall. So they have really have made UC San Diego as a full college now into a Division I program, like James was saying, and a great friend of mine, Chris Knoll who is a member of our Star Wars cosplay community. He was the fencing coach at UC San Diego about 20, 25 years ago. And he told me a story about Ted Leitner, who just now recently retired from doing San Diego sports after 46 years. Ted did a feature on his team for CBS Channel 8 when he was working at Channel 8 News. And that's one of his great stories about Ted's time, though. But certainly UCSD, though, they're known, though, for biology, oceanography, the Scripps Pier in La Jolla, and their work, though, in the community, and also being one of the, I believe, the #1 rated health system in all of, I think all of the nation, I want to say. Like, they're right up there, though. But now they're a basketball school, so no one can take that away from them after this season. James, back over to you.
Yeah, the matchup 6 BYU and 11 VCU. It was just BYU all the way through. They won 80-71.
They really ate the Rams alive, though, in the paint, man. They really
did that. Richie Sanders, Igor Demon had big games. That was pretty easy. Remember last year, I think BYU was upset last year in the tournament, and they made up for it definitely today. Sanders had 16, Demon with 15. They shot 50% from the field. I think that really helps there. Whenever you do that, you have a good chance to win. Although VCU had a good second half, it just wasn't enough to overcome their wrongdoings in the first half. But BYU moves on. I think everybody picked BYU. I think I was close to picking VCU yesterday. But luckily,
you were definitely doing one of these. Definitely, which side's going to land on. Yeah, BYU, I think, the score reads it was a 9-point win, James. BYU had that game, Sally, in the bag at one point. I mean, they were up big in this ball game. Like I said, though, BYU really was feeding, other than the 3-point shooting, James, they were just feeding and feeding and feeding inside, and they had both their big men just kind of, going, just going after it, basically, down low. But again, 80-71 in favor of Brigham Young over Virginia Commonwealth. BYU beats VCU in the battle of abbreviated schools in that matchup between the Cougars and the Rams. Let's go, James, to our next ball game. 3-seed Wisconsin, 14-seed Montana, playing earlier on Thursday from Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. The Badgers hold off the Grizzlies 85-66. Montana also, James, kind of gave it all that they had in this ball game, but the Badgers, though, built a 40-32 lead after a few early lead changes, though, and also outscored the Grizzlies 45-34 in the second half of play. John Blackwell, 19 points. Wisconsin, though, James, had a very balanced attack, though. All their starters in this game, all but one starter had at least double figures. One player did not get any points, though, but also got 11 off the bench, though, as well. So Wisconsin got 4 of their 5 starters going early and often, James. That's what I think led the Badgers to a W over Montana today in Denver.
They shot 55% from the field. I think that really helps, too. Just an easy win, in my opinion.
So, again, 85-66. The Badgers on Wisconsin goes on into the round of 32. Big game, James. The floor is yours.
Okay, before we get to the worst games, there was one more, I guess, good game, and it dealt with the 2 legendary coaches, Calipari for Arkansas and Self for KU. Kansas was number 7, Arkansas number 10, and Arkansas gets the upset win. I lose, of course, because I believed in Dickinson, and
you and me both, brother.
He didn't fare as well. And I knew there was something off about both teams this year, but it was more about Kansas. Like Kansas, UConn. There was one more school in there that really kind of fell off from being at the top. Probably North Carolina. And Purdue. Yeah, Purdue was the third one. Thank you. What I was trying to think of. Because they just weren't like top 4. They weren't as good as the last few years. But Arkansas, I was really pleased to see the win there. They had 4 out of the 5 starters in double figures. Aldo had 22 points. That was huge for them. Not a good day or night shooting, but they got it done. Dickinson only had 11 points. His future's kind of every year. It's like it's really in a different process because he's finally a senior. I don't think he has another year of eligibility, but He just seemed like he enjoyed college so much that he stayed for the NIL money. That's why he went to
For
Kansas
sure.
from
I think that's kind of where
Michigan.
the case is now, James. If you have that bonus year, you're going somewhere else to just to collect a paycheck.
He went from Michigan to Kansas the last couple of years. I think he's an NBA player, but something about him, he's like slow for the NBA game. I can't. I know Jokic is slow, but he's taller and
so
more.
In a way, does this kind of
skilled.
become a Lucas situation where conditioning now becomes at the forefront in your mind?
Maybe with Dickinson, because he always seems nonchalant when he's playing, when he's trying to create, or he'll
Fair
just
observation.
he'll go off
And
a
James,
screen.
if I can interject, why does it seem like, though, whenever that the ball is in his hands, the Jayhawk offense goes to a snail's pace? Like, it just seems like, though, that they're going great, though. I get, though, feed the big man, let him eat. But not when you're slowing down the offense and draining the shot clock.
It's like they have plays for just him, and it's just a pick, and instead of rolling to the basket, he'll pop out for the three and then pass it out and try to get it back
and take the higher percentage shot, and it's probably not going in.
Yeah, just something about him where it's just everything's slow for him, and he lost that ever since he went to Kansas. But they did have 3 players in double figures, but it just wasn't enough. And they did shoot very fairly well from 3-point and the key or inside, but Arkansas, I think, did it with their defense and rebounding. I think that was enough. Brazil, I think, showed that today with his 11 points but 12 rebounds. That was pretty big. But Calipari gets the win over Self. I think that was.
And now we get Calipari and Patino, St. John's, and Arkansas in the round of 32.
Yeah, that was fun. That's going to be fun.
Still feels like a bummer, though, that we had to see Self and Calipari in round 1. In the same region, nonetheless, too.
It just shows you how far Kansas fell.
Yeah, they both have fallen.
And then with Calipari not being at Kentucky, now being at Arkansas, not having, the tools that he had before with recruiting, that's why you saw this matchup instead of in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16, you get it in the first round.
James, now that we got through a lot of the good games, now we kind of get to some of the fluff, sadly. Yeah, we're now at that stage of the show here. James, I'm going to start with probably the shocker. It was the first game of the day. Now, believe me, I obviously am rolling with my beloved Creighton Blue Jays in the in the first round and for the tournament. And the reason why, folks, in case you're wondering about why I picked Creighton, that was the only school who offered yours truly a baseball scholarship when he was in high school. That's the only reason why I picked to be a Blue Jays fan, because I nearly went there. Top of the fact that I have family from Omaha and from Lincoln, Nebraska. So great. Creighton and Nebraska are 2 schools that we root for in this house of mine. And James, I say it was shocking because the Jays clobbered Louisville in practically a home game for the Cardinals in Lexington, Kentucky at Rupp Arena. 89-75, Creighton clobbering the Cardinals of Louisville to kick off the tournament today. The Jays led 49-34 at halftime and outscored Louisville in that half. And then they also got 29 points from Jemiah Neal, and also more importantly as well, though, James, Ryan Kalkbrenner, who's been there his like a whole eternity, it feels like. He chips in 14 points, 6 rebounds. Also, I believe had 6 blocks in the ball game. And then also Stephen Ashworth, 22 points, 4 of 8 from beyond the arcs of the sharpshooter who was formerly at Utah State, now at Creighton, still shooting the ball very well. And by the way, Ryan Kalkbrenner, wanted to kind of clarify, had 4 blocks in this game. I believe now he's 1 block away from 400 for his career. And for Louisville, Chucky Hepburn tried his damnedest to keep the Cardinals afloat, though. But 22 points for Chucky in the ballgame. They also lost Rain Smith to an ankle injury that he was already battling earlier in the last couple of weeks. So, James, I'm more, I think, shocked that obviously we picked Creighton, but more surprised, though, about how they went in there and really just kind of beat in Louisville. Now, I know that they had the injury situation with Rain Smith, and, Hepburn was kind of carrying that team, though. But for the Jays, though, James, to go into practically a home game for the Cardinals in Lexington, Kentucky. To beat them, though, that badly in practically a home game, very surprising start to the tournament by seeing the 9 take down the 8.
Yeah, that was a good road win for Creighton, obviously.
It practically was a road win. I mean, you're not wrong.
I think the Louisville fans and probably the team was just scared of the color
James,
blue.
The crowd, because I know that you weren't able to watch the first slate of games. That crowd not only was booing because it, whenever Creighton would score, you could still hear the Creighton fans. But when the cameras would pan and scan, James, oh man, you could just tell though that like the energy was gone. Stone-faced reactions, hand on the chin, hands on head, palms in face. Like Creighton came out and really punched Louisville in the mouth from the word go in the opening tip in this ball game.
I think with their record of 27-8, I think Louisville fans probably thought, okay, we're gonna maybe make a little run, maybe Sweet 16.
And James, they made a run in the game. I know you were saying about Sweet 16, but they were making a run. And this is where they lost the game. They were making a run. They were chipping away. And the head coach, for some damn reason, because of a no foul call, takes a technical foul with them chipping away. They're down 10. They're down 8. And he instead interjects himself into the game by coming on the floor and screaming at the referee, probably said a couple of magic words. He gets banged with a technical foul, and that really right there breaks Louisville's back.
Yeah, I'm seeing also that a fan after the technical threw
a full bottle of water right by the Creighton bench, like it could have hit somebody.
That's just probably.
And I give props to Brian Anderson and his broadcast partner who really spoke their mind about that. Like, we hope that, or I think BA said, well, that fan should hopefully be banned from this arena going forward after what just happened.
Yeah, just no need for that. Probably Louisville fans at their best. I don't know. How
Louisville fans showing their frustration.
Yeah.
With how the year had gone, hey, we have a home game practically, and we're letting Creighton of all teams beat us. Come on now.
Dan Hurley, we were talking about coaches, losing and winning games for them at UConn. Maybe Louisville's coach was trying to do the same thing, trying to keep that momentum going, but you only do that, I think, when you're really down. You try to fire up the guys.
Not when you're making a run and you're finally getting shots to fall, and you finally have cooled off the opposition. That's the last thing you do. Come on now.
Yeah, that's elementary right there. All right, probably the rest of the games are probably blowouts. You want to run through those?
Yeah, and you can start.
Okay, I didn't see any of these, of course. I was at work for a while. But number 1, Auburn, as my thing unloads, or has to unload here. They easily take care of
They won
Alabama
pretty
State.
handily over Alabama State.
83-63. I did see one player of Auburn had a leg injury, but I think he went back. I think he was fine. They only led by 10 at the half, and I think there was a little scare there, but
Alabama State, and I think, James, that's the beauty, I think, though, about being a 16. What do you got to lose?
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? Like, forget what the scoreboard says. Have fun and play the game, man. And Alabama State, though they were losing, James, I loved how they were still playing with all their energy. After they make a 3 or make a shot, they're dapping up teammates. They're giving, hey, we made a 3. Kind of doing their bench mob. Like, I still love though when teams stay engaged in a game that they know they're not going to win, but they're still locked in for the full 40 minutes of the ball game.
Yeah, that's the beauty coming from the SWAC. You don't play the big teams like the Auburn, but I think they were the ones that won their tournament. But Auburn won 2 halves only by 10 points. It's probably not what Bruce Pearl wants going forward. That's probably not the defensive effort that you need going forward, playing better teams.
I mean, even being up big, like Bruce had that PO'd look like, I'm going to freaking ring these guys a new one when this game's over. Like, Bruce, you're up 20. Shut up.
It's just never – you have to be perfect, and especially against an opponent like that, you really have to be really there. But Broom only had 14. Kelly luckily had 23, or else maybe it would have been a little bit closer. But Auburn won by 20, 83-63. No problem.
No problem for the Tigers. No problem for the Boilermakers, who took down a High Point 75-63, though. But James, High Point, my man, hats off to them too. They were in that ball game all the way to the very end, and they lose by 12, which I think is very respectable for a team like High Point, who I think they have a new coach in place. I want to say he's kind of been around the block a little bit, though, trying to change that program. But you know what, though, for a while though, James, High Point was bucket, bucket counter bucket. Really was playing with Purdue. Like Purdue really had their hands full here, and you were kind of wondering for a bit though, is Purdue going to really do this again in the first round? Like, come on now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when they played High Point. But matter of fact, I think I hope I didn't pick them. No, I did pick High Point. For some reason. Jesus Christ, I did. Yeah, these were one of the games that killed me. I had some type of gut feeling, but they ended up winning by 12. Smith had 20. Kaufman
only
had
4-point win, so nothing to hang your nothing to be sad about if you're High Point. You were in the game. You only lost by 12, and like I said though, you were in the game again. You were going punch counter punch, and you were hanging. I think they probably, James, in all honesty, they probably gave Purdue a pretty damn good scare today in that game as well.
Yeah, it'll toughen up Auburn going forward. That's what Bruce Pearl will do. I guarantee you that. All right, number 2 Tennessee defeated Warford, the Terriers, back in it, 77-62, 2/15. Of course, it looks like Tennessee got a lot of points from Chaz Lanier, 29 points, 11-22 from his from the field in his debut. Pretty easy win, I think. 77-62, like I mentioned. Gotta give it to Warford getting back in the tournament. Jackson Silvis had 15 points, but I think the key to the game here for Tennessee was probably from the field shooting 48%, making 10 3-pointers, a couple of guys in double figures in the starting lineup. But credit to Warford for being in there, both having 2 scores in double figures. Lorenz having 12 points off of the bench too kind of made that score a little bit more respectable. But yeah, Tennessee rolls on, and I think you say they might have performed better than Auburn today.
I really think so, though. I know that Rick Barnes, like early in the game, though, Rick was kind of a little bit ticked, though, at his team for how they kind of came out of the gate, though. Hey, and I think, James, it's kind of customary. A lot of the upper seeds, like a lot of the upper seeds, they seem like to kind of like go through the motions, kind of get their feet under them for the first 4 to 6 to 8 minutes of the ball game. But yeah, Wofford, by the way, James, they made that game pretty dang good, though. They were right there as well, much like the other teams, though. But again, Tennessee winning over Wofford 77-62 in the opening round matchup there. Last game, James, really not much of a surprise, though. Houston absolutely shellacking SIU Evansville 78-40, a 38-point win for Houston. James, no early round stub of the toe yet for Houston after today's game.
Yeah, that usually comes later on, Sweet 16, Elite 8. It looks like Uzon had 16, Cryer had 15. He's been really good for them this year. I think he had a buzzer beater to end the first half, I want to say. They also had 2 guys off the bench score double figures. Man, for the Cougars, unfortunately, Evansville, they only shot 2 of 24 from downtown. That kind of did them in as well. They're probably just trying to make up points in that game, but
trying to keep it close, trying to keep it entertaining.
That was unfortunate to see, but Houston moves on, of course.
And that is the first 16 games, James. We got through the first 16 games in 59 minutes and 30 seconds. Can you believe that? But again, folks, to recap the opening day scores of men's college basketball for March Madness: Creighton 89, Louisville 75, Purdue over High Point 75-63, Wisconsin beating up on Montana 85-66, Houston pounding SIU Evansville 78-40, Auburn over Alabama State 83-63, McNeese pulls off the upset of Clemson 69-67, BYU over VCU 80-71, Gonzaga pummeling Georgia 89-68, Tennessee over Wofford 77-62, Arkansas over Kansas 79-72, A&M over Yale 80-71, Drake gets past Mizzou 67-57. UCLA pummeling Utah State 72-47. St. John's triples up Omaha 83-53. Michigan survives UC San Diego 68-65. And Texas Tech closes down day one over UNC Wilmington 82-72 to round out the first 16 games of March Madness. And guess what, James? We got 16 more tomorrow, my friend. That's scheduled for tomorrow. Tips off at 9:15 a.m. Pacific time. Baylor, Mississippi State kicks off the day at 9:45 a.m. Robert Morris and Bama, 10:30 a.m. Lipscomb and Iowa State, 11 a.m. Colorado State and Memphis, 11:50 a.m. Mount St. Mary's will play Duke, 12:15 in the afternoon. Vanderbilt and St. Mary's of California, 1:05 in the afternoon. UNC Ole Miss. Grand Canyon takes on Maryland at 1:35. Norfolk State, Florida at 3:50. Troy and Kentucky at 4:10 in the afternoon. New Mexico and Marquette at 4:25. Akron, Arizona, 4:35. Oklahoma and UConn. Will Dan Hurley lose his mind again at 6:25 in the evening? Xavier in Illinois, 6:45. Bryant in Michigan State, 7 o'clock. And Liberty and Oregon wind down day two of the tournament at 7:10 to round out day two. A quick update from ESPN.com. Out of all the brackets, of all the millions of brackets that have been done, James, we are at 25,802 brackets that are still perfect after the first 16 games. Wow, James, there are 30 folks out there, James, who sadly have not won a game yet. They're 0-16 like the Cleveland Browns to start up a tournament. Again, I'm 11-5 after day one. James is 10-6 after day one as well. With that in mind, James, what a night. We're already done with the show, if you can believe it, James. Final thoughts. What do you got?
Yeah, I guess picking just one game for tomorrow that I'm really looking forward to. And believe it or not, it's in the afternoon, but it's Marquette in New Mexico, 7 versus 10. It's some high-octane offense, but tough defense as well. And I just want to see how New Mexico does out of the pit. And I really can't wait for that game, among others. But I'm looking forward to that game and the madness that'll come Friday. Hopefully, maybe a little bit more upsets.
Yeah, I'm not really too intrigued with too many of these games. I want to see how St. Mary's plays out of the West Coast Conference again. That's my conference. The further that they go, the more money that we get. I really, James, am
Grand Canyon.
I mean Grand Canyon, but I think I picked Maryland sadly over Grand Canyon. Probably because I'm bitter that they left, that they didn't want to join the West Coast Conference. Give me UConn. I know I'll be probably at work or getting off work and heading to the bar for a bit before we probably come back here for night two of Madness tonight. I want to see this UConn team actually get their head out of their ass and play basketball. I want Dan Hurley to shut up, put a muzzle on it, and actually coach his team. Don't make it about the refs. Worry about your kids. They got to play their best ball, and if you want to go for that three-peat, then you better be playing some good basketball coming up here to start off. So James is going to be picking the UNM Marquette game at 4:25. I will go with the Oklahoma UConn game for the game to watch tomorrow. I'll probably, James, catch a majority of the morning and afternoon slate before I head to work tomorrow at 4 o'clock for high school baseball. But we hope that you folks enjoyed our first night here on Madness Tonight. We'll do our best to come back with you on Friday again to kind of give you a bit of a chance to get your thoughts heard, I should say, and kind of, recap the games. And again, we'll try this through the entire tournament. And I will say real quick that James and I are hopefully going to be able to bring you a watch along of our commentary of the national title game in April from right here on C2C, much like James and Chris did for the college football playoff and also the SEC title game between Texas and Georgia earlier on in the season. Our good viewer, Tour Frenti, says they got Lipscomb and UNC moving on. Don't know what I think about it now, laughing out loud. I think, James, I think I picked UNC to move on, too, out of the first four.
Can't remember. I know I picked whoever Lipscomb is playing. I picked the opposite. I know for sure. Who is North Carolina? I forget North Carolina.
UNC's playing Ole Miss at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and Lipscomb is facing Iowa State at 10:30 tomorrow morning.
All right. I'm trying to go back to it, but oh God, who? Man, I don't know. It's gonna be fun, but yeah, I'm not. I'm looking. Maybe there's one or two upsets in the whole thing, but man, if Lipscomb got that, that'd be amazing. That'd be awesome.
That'd be something. If they knock out Iowa State, that'd be something.
Yeah.
The Bisons.
Remember there it is. Iowa State and then Ole Miss. I did pick North Carolina, but unfortunately, I picked Iowa State over Lipscomb.
Yeah, Lipscomb Bisons.
Lipscomb.
Yeah, Bisons.
That's still weird.
At Bisons out of the A-Sun Conference. James, you game for tomorrow night after Entertainment Hour wraps up tomorrow, or what do you think?
Oh, yes. Don't tell anybody, but I'll probably be facing that way since the TV is that way during the Entertainment Hour and just...
Smart man. I'm going to have the games on my phone while I'm doing high school baseball tomorrow. With the volume turned down, I'm going to be watching the Fast Break stream, which is the 4 games on one screen.
That is necessary nowadays. Yep.
Download the NCAA March Madness Live app, and you can watch the games with your cable provider, and you can go from there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so there you go. Thanks again, by the way, to Casey, Tim, and to Tour Fuente for joining us here tonight. We'll, by popular demand, we'll be back with you folks tomorrow night to recap day 2. I might give you a quick rundown on the women's side of things, too, for their first round tomorrow as well. But we'll be back here tomorrow at 10:10 in the evening, if I'm not too hammered after work tomorrow night, from right back here on Coast to Coast. Again, big thanks again to Casey King, Tim Hendricks, and to YouTube viewer Tour Fuente for joining us here tonight. We'll see you folks back here by popular demand on Friday for another night of madness tonight to recap all things NCAA March Madness basketball, folks. Till tomorrow night, for James Gonzales, Callan, McClurg saying good night. We'll see you back here on Friday, back here on C2C. Till next time, have a good night. Bye-bye.